Okay, we are recording. It is Sunday night, February 28th. And there seems to be a little like mixed feelings about some people think February flew by in a second. Some people feel like it took forever. I am definitely someone that feels like it just came and went. I cannot believe it's March. That being said, with it passing so fast, it also was a really hard month. Like I felt off in many different ways. I felt like there was more focus somehow in January in a lot of aspects. And February went by so fast. Even my struggles felt like they went by fast. But when I look back as a whole onto my tracker, I just see a lot of this, a whole lot of this back and forth. So we are going into March, and it's always fun and nice and like a reset kind of place when you're starting a new month to think about new goals. And when I say new goals, they can be goals that you've had before, but write them down again or think about them again, or maybe try to think about how you want to approach them differently. It might still be the same goal. Break it down differently. And we really love this theme of this tracker, right? Does everybody have their fitness tracker from February colored in? Okay, did everybody see that we put one up for March? Raise your hand. Did you see if we put one up for March?
Right now, I am scheduling the accountability for every week in March so that we know we're going to be checking in that we got it done, guys. It's going to be amazing.
Shoot, I printed mine. Where did it go? I printed my March one and now I can't find it. And I'm going to have to print it again. And then Jen's going to make fun of me and someone's going to come out of my printer while we're talking. But I won't. I will print it later, or I will find the one I printed. So the theme that we would like to have for March, if you haven't seen yet, it's on the tracker. It's mindful in March. You can be mindful about many things, but as we see so often in our lives, it really helps if we focus it and hone in on something specifically. So what I would like to concentrate on for this call and for this coming week, and in terms of the month when we're talking about filling in this tracker, is your tracker, okay? Your tracker. However you track, it could be on paper, it can be on your phone, it could be through iBooks, it could be on Excel, okay? But before I get into the nitty gritty, I would like to kind of discuss with you my thoughts that I've been having. Hi, Yakir Cantor. So this whole idea of being mindful, right? We throw that word around a lot, to be mindset, being mindful. I want to be mindful. And somewhere in the back of our head very often, we kind of think that we need to be disciplined, or it's about willpower, right? What does it mean when we say we want to be more mindful? What comes to your mind? Like, put that in the chat. What comes to your mind when you're saying to yourself, I want to be more mindful? If we're going into March, being more mindful in March. Okay, does anybody ever really think about what that means to them? So when I sat down and really wanted to think about what I want to be mindful about, present, excellent. Now, what does being present mean? Present in what kinds of way? Aware. Yes, aware. And I think so many of these things, self-awareness, aware, thinking before I eat. For me, being mindful, even if you separate it from food, the thinking before. Thinking first, responding, not reacting, right? We all talk about very often being mindful, not being as reactive. So that can be in every single area. So when I sat down and really thought about this, because I am a very impulsive and reactive person, this really meant a lot to me. We talk so much about being mindful and our mindset. And where does that, come into play? So I want you to think about, I'm going to pose this kind of question that I realized I can ask myself. I'm always looking for new kinds of tips and tricks and ways that I can talk to myself. And I think our goal very often here as coaches with you guys is to help you become that voice in your head, to help you coach yourself through many opportunities. That doesn't mean that something's always going to be right. Coaching yourself is also giving yourself the ability to look back and look at what happened and see what can be done differently, or if you're happy with how things went, or a different perspective. So I want you to think about this. This is the question. Sometimes that I've realized that if I ask myself this, what are you leaving out? Like I pose myself that question, or I even sometimes flip it around and I even tell myself or talk to myself, be like, Ayelet, you're leaving something out, right? When it comes to tracking or when it comes to blanket statements. Even afterwards, even after the fact, okay, like I'll give you an example because this may be coming out a little bit jumbled. What do I mean by that? Like if you ask yourself this question, how does this help with being mindful? If you say, what are you leaving out? Okay, sometimes we reduce the circumstances of our life, of an opportunity, of something that happened, of a fact. We reduce our potential or we reduce our possibilities, and we make things to a very convenient, simple, or simplistic kind of generalization, right? I don't want to work out. Wake up in the morning, I don't want to work out. Now we've just reduced our thoughts to a very convenient simplicity, right? I don't want to work. Okay, if I don't want to work out, I don't have to work out. But now here, and if you put this in any single thing, and this is where we're going to get to tracking. If I wake up one morning and say, I don't want to work out, but then I ask myself, what are you leaving out? Ayelet, I've left some stuff out. In fact, I've left a lot of stuff out. What have I left out? I've left out, I have more energy when I work out. I feel good about myself when I work out. It's really important for me to be active, right? You can go on and on and on about what I left out by simplifying that thought, right? I've left out that I want to be the kind of person that works out most days. I want to be the kind of person that as I get older, this is on autopilot and it's something fun and that I love doing. There's so many things that we don't even realize that we're simplifying and we're leaving out. And it comes down to the same thing with our tracker or with anything, right? When we've spoken about this so often that, like I just can't seem to get motivated, right? So if you've ever said to yourself, well, I can't get myself motivated to get back into it. I did, it was okay. And whatever happened, and I can't get myself motivated. Well, what have you left out? I'll tell you a really easy one. You can do it without motivation, right? I'm the hard ass here that will say, do it anyway, right? Remember, we're not always motivated to do laundry. We do it anyway. 1,000 things. So what else? What else are you leaving out? If you have to think about now something that you simplify, not in a good kind of simplify way, right? But you make it so simplistic that you're leaving out all the other things that can get you to do something, behave a certain way, right? So if you say to yourself about tracking, again, tracking's annoying. I can't track. I don't have time to track. Okay? So many of these things. What are you leaving out? You're leaving out tracking can be simple, right? You're leaving out my meals can be quick and easy. You're leaving out I get so much pleasure out of seeing the results when I'm consistent about tracking. When I don't track, I seem to spiral out. So sometimes, very often, in so many areas of our life, by simplifying things, we're actually doing ourselves a disservice. So I want you guys to think about this. I want you to think about how you can make yourself aware and say, like in my case, okay, Ayelet, what are you leaving out? Right? What am I leaving out? When I make a statement and it seems very simple and easy, I don't have time. I don't get enough sleep. Sometimes those very simple things don't then give way to that mindfulness that we can be having. And that's what I feel like this question can really do for us. What are you leaving out? If you ask yourself that question every time you feel yourself swaying in the wrong direction, it opens up conversation for yourself. So I really think, and I want to pose this challenge to you guys, and that's why we're doing this for March. Okay, when it comes to tracking, some of you might be saying, well, I track and I'm still struggling, right? What do I mean? I track every day. I can be perfectly honest with you. I also track every day. And I have an accountability partner. I have multiple accountability. I have multiple people I send my tracker to all the time, right? And I woke up this morning and I really debated stepping on the scale or not. In fact, I even wrote to Lily, I don't think I'm going to step on the scale this morning. And then she wrote back to me, did you track? You think it's not connected. You really think it's not. And I had so many challengers or clients tell me today, wow, I mean, at least 2 or 3 people were like, oh my God, I was the same weight today as I was Friday. I can't believe it. The scale must be broken, was one person, because it's so hard for us to believe. You don't even realize what you've put on autopilot, that even when you indulge, you're already drinking more than you're used to. Of course, you're having vegetables with your meal. These things make a difference. If you don't step on the scale and you don't track, you are not giving yourself the opportunity to learn and to see what that data is and where you can move forward. You're also not giving
And I'll give you that part. Like my scale was up this morning, but I haven't gone to the bathroom in 2 days. Too much information, TMI. But I can also see what I really ate and where I did indulge and where I didn't. And there's so many things to be proud of that even when you lose course or even when you haven't gone to the bathroom and you know the scale is up, you can let it go because you're able to zoom out. And you only get to have that relationship. And I love this exercise. And I think if Ayala, we even give people a minute, we like to actually do it because it's that, I think you were so on point. It was that powerful. Ayala wrote, I can't go to sleep before 1 a.m. But just like Ayala said, what are you not writing there? Like, oh, I feel so much better when I have a better nighttime routine. I feel so much better when I have more tools to unwind and get rid of some of the stress from my high intensity life. Like I struggle with water. Oh, but I love seeing the scale go down. Like all of those stories, like take a minute, guys, use the chat. You have the most amazing coaches here to guide you through it. And we never take the time to do these things for ourselves. So take a minute now.
Take a minute. If anybody has a pen and paper, think about it in terms of what's the familiar story? And I know we talk about this all the time, okay? You don't need to be accountable to your previous self. You don't need to. Nobody's telling you you need to be accountable to that person. There are new versions of ourselves all the time. But we are so quick to go with that familiar story, and then just reduce our thoughts and circumstances to what's convenient or simple. It's actually convenient to say, well, if I'm not motivated, I don't work out. I need to be motivated to work out. If I don't have Shabbos leftovers, then I'm not gonna eat well. If I don't meal prep, blah, blah, blah. I heard the best piece of advice, and I forgot which client I told this to recently. Okay? When someone's like, I can't meal prep. I don't have the time, right? And then the question was, okay, do you work out? Yes, that's on autopilot. I got the workout, I got the fitness stuff, and we hear that a lot, right? It's the nutrition. I got the working thing. I'm working out, but the nutrition I can't keep on track because I don't have the things that I need. I'm not ready for it, and I don't have time to meal prep. And this trainer said to this person, okay, you ready? This is the secret. Take your longest workout of the week and don't do it. And instead of that hour, meal prep. Because that's how important the food is. That's how important the nutrition is. Guys, we are all given the same amount of time in a day. I'm not saying we all have the same schedule and the same life, and no one is trying to trade or compare hardships with somebody else. They're ours, and I wouldn't, you know? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. But figure it out. Figure out what you're leaving out by simplifying.
And don't figure it out alone. You're not alone to figure it out, guys. You're not alone. If you can't figure it out, then just ask for help, because there is somebody else in this amazing community who is in a very similar situation at some point in their journey, who could totally tell you what they did. And if your prep is a takeout list, awesome. You know, if your prep is just your water, like, that'll get you halfway there.
Right. So that's, I think, a really important piece. Everybody tracks differently. What we are challenging you guys with this month is see what you're leaving out. First of all, what are you leaving out in the story you're telling yourself? How are you simplifying that? But what are you leaving out in your tracker? If you're someone that says, what do you mean I track all the time? Then I'd like to challenge you on that. Are you leaving out details? Are you leaving out portions that you're using? Are you leaving out your current mindset? Are you leaving out your me time? Are you leaving out, sometimes you track if you pooped or not? Are you leaving out how many hours you slept? Are you leaving out what was great about that day? There are so many levels of things that you can decide this month, and that's what we are challenging you to do. Find the thing that you are leaving out and commit to the month of March. Yes.
This just reminded me of one of the things you're saying, totally just reminded me, one of the things that we always are telling our clients, and Yoni, you weigh in here too, Jen, weigh in here too, but that I think one of the things we really talk about all the time is also when you're consolidating, not just what you're leaving out, but when you're, oh, I had 2 chicken breasts, or I had, 6 meatballs and this, as if they were all on the plate together. Versus when you ate one thing and then 45 minutes later, you came back to the kitchen grazing and then 8 more. And then you're right, oh, I had 8 meatballs. Really? Wow, you put 8 meatballs on your plate and you were full and satisfied from 8 meatballs? Or you took 3 meatballs because you felt like that should be a portion, but we're still hungry, skipped the water, came back around, right? Kind of, noshed on some cucumbers, then when it was going to start taking crackers and chocolate chips, then went back and had 4 more meatballs. That's a totally different story than the person who actually ate 8 meatballs in the first place. The conversation you'd want to have yourself, the habits you'd want to work on are completely different. What do you guys think?
I think there's, in addition to that, I think there's also something to the fact of, as someone who Lily can attest to this, was really challenged with tracking at the beginning. My success started when I started tracking with no BS, in detail, not leaving things out, but the difference between I had chicken and salad to I had a thigh with a salad that was made up of half a package of lettuce with a handful of cherry tomatoes. I'm not asking you to count 7 or 6 cherry tomatoes, but the fact is there's a big difference between a big salad and what does that mean? What is a big salad? What's in your big salad? Your big salad could be very flat on a big plate. It could be a mountain of salad. Those are 2 very different salads. The more details you put in, and I'll go one step further, and I see this with almost all of my clients, the ones who are having certain challenges of remembering every day, it is interesting that they are very, very amazing about tracking the days that are really great choices. Suddenly, the days that are not the greatest of choices, it's harder to put on paper.
But that's where that's what you just really hit the nail on the head, because you are doing yourself a disservice by not doing that. If I wouldn't have stepped on the scale this morning and gone back and tracked everything, I wouldn't have known that it was maybe not as bad as I thought. Mind you, guys, my weight fluctuates so flippin' fast, okay? When I say not as bad, I gained 700 grams. That's close to 2 pounds since Friday morning, okay? From Friday morning to Sunday morning. But I wouldn't, if I didn't step on the scale, I wouldn't have seen them, still didn't go over the top of my maintenance threshold. And that was huge for me. That was really big. Okay?
Also, one step further, when you're at a different stage where your food, where you're eating is really a stable eating. I'm going to call it stable eating. Not that we as coaches don't have bad decisions or less great choice opportunities. We're human as well. But there's a point where a year ago, if I ate something, I don't know if my body would react the same way as if I ate it now. I will know exactly what went off. And that's, I think, one of the things that we keep talking about, the importance of tracking is if you are not tracking regularly, finding those sweet spots of knowing what those magic days are. I know there's certain, I'm not going to eat the same thing every single day. I mean, I eat the same breakfast every day, but I don't eat the same, but I have certain combinations I know before I step on the scale in the morning. As long as everything else has been somewhat, the water is the same, the sleep is the same, I know what those combinations are only because I've reviewed those trackers with my coach.
Okay, guys, I gotta answer Sarah here. I gotta answer Sarah. Did you see this?
Yes, please do. Read it out loud.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. Thank you. You're brilliant. You're a rock star. What gain is there? I totally forgot I was chewing gum. That is so rude. Excuse me. What gain is there from tracking those absolutely horrendous days when everything went to pot? Not when you had one bad meal, which you can learn from, but a literal disaster. Okay.
Purely theoretical, of course, yeah?
What?
Purely theoretical only, never actually happened.
For sure.
Never.
1 second.
Never.
I mean,
from
like
us
in the
either.
theory of all the time, absolutely. Like, and then what that means when you actually track it is the only way you will ever celebrate how that actually changes for you. When, you know, that complete loss of control that you can't even remember what you ate because you inhaled so much food in such a short period of time. Okay, you can't actually appreciate that that does get better, but it gets better in like, okay, I ate half a bag of chips, threw it away into the trash. Then I grabbed the Oreos, ate 3 Oreos, didn't finish the package, threw that away, went to the tea biscuits, took 2 of these, then quickly moved it to somewhere else in the cabinet, went around, drank some water, ate an apple, came back to the pretzels, added peanut butter, left the room, came back.
All
Like,
theoretical.
you don't get the full story. You don't-
All theoretical, right?
Wait, can I say something? Can I say something about that?
Yes.
Sarah, I just want to say something about that. Like Yoni said, we are all human, and even as coaches, we have off days, off weeks. Like it happens, and Lily's listing all of that. But like for me, actually putting it on paper has nothing to do with what I actually ate. It's about my mindset.
Yes.
It's because 2 weeks
Absolutely.
later, if I have the same binge, my mindset will be completely different and able to forward much faster. And so that's
Yes.
what's really important.
The most,
Yes.
thank you, Jen. The most interesting thing that happened to me today, 4 different clients said to me, I have the skills to get back to where I want to be. In different wording, they
Yep.
weren't there a month ago. So if you're tracking everything you eat and you see the scale go up, another win is saying, I have those skills to watch that number go back down because I know what I need to do to get there.
Yeah.
But I can't see what that process is if I'm not writing it down. It's too in the air. Yeah, I had a bad eating day.
And appreciating how much less often it happens. Like there's so many different kinds of wins, how much less often it happens. And every time you write it down, you also give yourself permission to stop earlier. Like when I started eating ice cream, motse prom, everybody knows if you're in this group more than one holiday, motse holiday, I'm good all holiday. Motse holiday is a struggle for me. This year, I feel like literally I started with You know, first of all, I'd gotten rid of the really triggering stuff earlier, huge win. But then even as I was doing it, I gave myself permission to stop earlier, to not finish the cycle, to not play the whole record, to just be like, oh, I can skip this song. I can skip this song. Okay, I started listening to this song, that old playlist. Yeah, like 30 seconds in, I can stop. I don't have to finish this song. And get out of it faster. And it was such a huge win to see, oh, like Ayala said, I don't have to be accountable to that's my story, that every post-Chag is challenging for me. Now coming up to Pesach, I don't have to believe that every post-Chag is challenging for me. I know I have to get ready earlier, and I really work very hard over the holidays, and I need a really good sleep, Motzei Chag. That's my new story. Being up late Motzei Chag is the problem. I'm not the problem.
I think also.
Or whatever it is that you want to change things to.
I think also when you say what gain is there from tracking the absolutely horrendous days, is the ability to move on. There is something different about not tracking it and saying, clean slate, tomorrow I'm starting from scratch, and then it's still bugging you at the back of your head. And when you write it down, that is what gives you the clean slate in theory to then start again. Also, you'd be surprised what tracking gives you the ability to do in terms of memory. Like I had a client who said, wow, I really thought I lost it, but then I had the ability to write, I had 4 Hamantaschen. Like at the end of the day, I knew I had that. And then I knew I had 3 chocolate hearts. And then I knew, knowing the amounts also, you don't realize. Then there might be things maybe you don't necessarily remember. Like I can honestly tell you, I think it was 8 slices of challah Friday night. I think. I forgot which one. I don't remember if it was Lily or Jen. I think it was 8, and it wasn't pieces like this. It was 8 like this, which is probably 16. So it makes sense that I was up 700 grams.
Yeah, but I also want to add something that like Ayala and I are talking about a lot recently. But the reason that you also track is not only to see what you ate, but why you ate it. So you could also add it. So like Ayala pointed out to me today, was it an emotional eating episode or was it environmental? And actually it was a little bit of both, but had my environment not been surrounded with those things, it wouldn't have been emotional eating. So it's important to realize where those days are coming from. And then that's easier to stop based on the knowledge that you have.
Right. It's also huge. Guys, it's so easy. And I've said this before, it's so easy to blame emotional eating. And sometimes we just don't give the environment enough credit. We really don't. Like that's a real thing. It's a reason why it's one of the pillars.
There's also something to tracking where what you might call a really bad day today is a very different bad day 2 months from now. I'm calling my mom out on this one. I apologize. Where she said to me about some nuts my father brought home from Costco, in the containers that no woman would come home with, but a man feels like they need 62 pounds of nuts. But anyway, she said, yeah, I went back 2 or 3 times. I kept taking like 4 nuts. And I'm sitting there going, just add up how many nuts you just told me. That's a normal amount of, but our head gets to a different point where that was called a binge on nuts. We get to a different point where all of a sudden our assessment of a bad choice is a very different bad choice than the bad choice of 2 months ago where I ate a whole can of nuts. We need to look at our path and be able to write those down to look and mark. This is one of my good days, one of my weaker days. See the changes of what you're assessing yourself is.
It's the judgment too, guys, right? Come on. When we say horrendous, it's the self-judgment. It's the me yesterday was so ugly in what I ate and how I behaved. I'm so ashamed of it. I dislike the way I behaved so much. I really don't want to look at her. And when we talk about 2B mindsets really about self-love and like not fake self-love, that's what we mean. Like when you can hold yourself with compassion and love and be like, honey, it's okay. Tell me everything. I got you. Then you get to move on like with that level of self-trust. Like, you're not hiding stuff from yourself. You're not hiding stuff from yourself. You believe in yourself. And no matter what you eat, that's the value you're waking up with tomorrow. And you want to be her friend.
Wait, 1 second. I'm going to call on Sandy because she so politely did not interrupt her daughter Yoni.
She has better manners than her daughter.
Well, that's a funny thing because I did call Yoni and I did say to her that I picked out 3 cashews and 3 almonds and 3, and I'm like, how's that going to affect me? And after when we hung up, I said, am I crazy? But I realized, well, I am, but I realized that 2B has really, in the few months I'm with you guys, has really taken over my brain to the point that Yoni will tell you, Purim is my thing. I'm a baking crazed person. I grew up with a mother who did that, and I continue to do that. My plate doesn't have candy other than one thing. I'll make 8 different variations of peanut butter balls, and I made it all. I made it all last week. But I had to taste one of each thing that I made. So as I made the peanut butter balls, I had one that night. As I made the different Hamantaschen, I had a chocolate Hamantaschen, I had a different, and all week I had one of each batch of something. Then I skimmed the kuffel because the brownies weren't straight. You have to make them straight. You
They're
can't.
never straight. Why are they never
You can never give them to somebody else unless they're perfect. And you can't throw it out. My mother used to say she ate the Averas. So I ate a lot of Averas last week. And I told this to Yoni. And from Sunday to Thursday night, I was up 2 pounds. And all I kept saying to her is, I know how to get rid of it. I know how to get rid of it. I roasted 2 trays, enough for a family of 12, of vegetables for Shabbat. And I had my chicken and I had my chicken soup, but no knedel. Not so much challah, Ayelet. I had, enough.
People don't believe me when I tell them I can consume a lot.
But when I told her last night at my 2 a.m., was it, Yoni, or whatever time it was, when I told her that I think I had 6 of these over Shabbat, 6 32 ounces, when my everyday is 4 of them, which is 128 ounces. But over Shabbat, I had 6 of them. And I had only vegetables. My Shabbat was perfect eating. I got on the scale this morning. I weighed what I weighed last Sunday. The 2 pounds were gone. So I enjoyed the week. I baked like I do for all my neighbors. I'm the bubby on my block. And I had a great time doing it.
Bubby on the block. Sounds like an NSYNC song.
I am. But you could ask Yoni. But the thing was, I knew what was happening when it was happening. And when I got on the scale Friday morning and I did weigh 2 pounds up, I said, oh, you idiot. But I knew what I was going to do.
I think what's important, Sandy, about what you said, if I can so rudely cut you off, because I do that too. I'm not as patient. But I think what's really important to hone in on here is when you said you were up 2 pounds and then over the weekend, you were then down the 2 pounds. When Alana talks about you can lose it as fast as you gain it, this is also where tracking comes in to help you there, okay? You cannot lose it as fast as you gained it by going from weight gain mode, okay? And you have to acknowledge that if you are treating yourself every day, that's no longer in the weight loss mode, okay? If you are in weight gain mode for whatever reason, in order to lose it as fast as you gain it, you then have to be in the opposite mode. You can't go from weight gain mode to, yes, usually over the course of a week, if I treat 2 or 3 times or indulge 2 or 3 times, I manage to lose a pound this week. Okay, that still won't get you the net loss of the gain that you had. If you want to lose what you gained, then it has to be a more focused, let me look at my tracker. If I see what I did,
Exactly.
what is the other end of it? Not the other end, oh my gosh, I have to starve and detox. Guys, I don't know about you, but I have seen that if I have 3 simple, trackable meals, not juices, not detoxing, just sticking to plan. Just when you can tell those days your tracker has breakfast filled in, lunch filled in, and dinner filled in. Or if in between lunch and breakfast and lunch, even though there are no extra lines there, you write 12 o'clock, blah, 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 and then you had lunch. And then you had a snack. And then while you were making dinner, you also had that. That's not the opposite of weight gain mode, okay? There is very big differences between a clear tracker. So if you're somebody that tracks, but you want to say, okay, how can I focus this month? Then you can concentrate on that. I want a cleaner tracker. I want my meals to fit in the lines that are in the tracker without adding in the extra. The only thing that should be in that extra space can maybe be, like Jen was saying, why I ate something. Was this yummy? Like Yoni says, star it. Was it good? Do I want to repeat this meal? Make a big star on the top of a weight loss day, okay? But there's so many different forms of, Lily, you're talking about, you're on mute.
I was going to say, I know a great way to do what Ayala's saying is to use Alana's recipes. You can just write then mug cake. Because if you want to repeat that mug cake, you know exactly where the recipe is. And this is why Alana talks about turning any food into a trackable food. Instead of chicken stir fry in weight loss mode, she just chooses a leg or a thigh or a breast or have something that's more trackable, or a recipe she already knows that has set, not a recipe that you're changing the amounts or vegetables in or how much you're taking every time. And using the recipes from the To Be Mindset membership, the mindset menu that is on the, using those recipes or from her book is really a way to have an incredible weight loss week without having to overthink it.
But I just want to add one thing. One thing that Lily taught me like many, many months ago was she said, just like you put veggies first into your mouth, track your veggies first, which was very, very hard for me to do because I always like to do like I thought about it in clockwise. So I would do like my protein, my FFC, then my vegetables or whatever it was. And it really it's still ingrained in my head to like always put my vegetables down first. So you put your vegetables in your
ends up being, we're all mistaken. It's so funny. We've all grown up and been raised and we have our thing. Like if you think about when you're making Shabbos, right? You're like, what's the main dish I'm making? What's the main dish I'm making? So we think of that as main. But if you look at all the pictures of plated, our main dish, our protein is not the majority. It actually should not be the main. So when you track your vegetables first, or when you're thinking about your menu for Shabbos, right? I started thinking about it as, what is the protein that I'm making for the meal? What's the protein that I'm having? Do I need an FFC? What's that going to be? And I actually stopped calling my protein my main. My vegetables are my main. None of us here in Western society in the world are protein deficient, guys. None of you are like competing in a power building contest. None of you need to double your weight in grams of protein. Your protein is not your main. It's important. There's a reason why we have protein. If you go back to the basic videos, the food group videos, there's a reason for that, okay? Protein keeps you full, but it'll only keep you full if your main is the vegetables that have filled you up. So I think that's like, it's just, it dawned on me the other day when I realized I was making my Shabbos menu and I don't call it, what are we having for a main anymore? I asked my kids, what proteins do you want? And then somehow Shabbos cooking became so much easier.
If you remember, we had a conversation a few calls ago about how do people treat? How do you prepare to treat? And I feel like sometimes those are the tools from tracking that can be for when someone said, well, if I had a really bad eating day, if I know, and I've had, when we've all had someone turn to us, one of our clients, and say, you know, I'm going to be mindful about a treat. How do I do that? And I'll say, lean into it with going heavy on the veggies and heavy on the water, and come out of it leaning heavy on the veggies. And meaning, if you know you're going to have a thing, just like people coming out of Purim, we came out of whatever it was. Now, yes, my choices were relatively great for Purim. It doesn't mean that I'm not talking to each person that has called me this afternoon to say, are you really hitting the veggies hard? Are you really hitting the water hard for the rest of the day and tomorrow? Part of that behavior is by noting, I made sure to put extra veggies into, when you're tracking it, don't track a regular meal.
I think
Show
also
yourself.
I think also what's important with that, Yoni, is again, like what Lily said, and with here, I want to kind of like open it up for a few questions that people want to ask us something.
Well, I think we also need to wrap it up now. This
Yes.
is like, we're at the 45-minute mark. So
Right.
we can, why don't we really, guys, the place to ask questions now is in the group, in the thread of tonight's
Right.
call. We'll post the picture and let's keep the conversation going there.
So I think this whole idea of where, if we're going back to it, I want you guys keeping in mind for this week and even going towards this month with this Mindful in March, with the filling in the days that you track. And again, thinking of something specific. If you're going from somebody who doesn't consistently track, yes, start consistently tracking. If you feel like you're consistently tracking, try to find out what you're leaving out and go, and go back to that. But in terms of when we discuss now, like the opposite of weight gain is what is how you're tracking, filling in the meals. And what Lily said, using the to be mindset stuff, that's the same thing. I think that connects with what Yoni was saying about a treat. When you're saying to yourself, okay, how do I treat mindfully? Guys, your meals can also be a treat. My Shabbos breakfast was the peanut butter breakfast pie, okay? And I had my in-laws here for Shabbos, and I'm sitting down, and they're all having whatever they're all having for Kiddush, and I sat down with my big quarter of the pie, and my 15-year-old son looks at me, and then he looks at my father-in-law, he goes, that's a portion for her. And that was like a treat. I was having pie for breakfast. It doesn't mean a treat doesn't have to be an extra, okay? A treat doesn't have to be something in between the lines. A treat can also be in the line. A treat can be breakfast. You know how many people have told me they get so much pleasure out of Alana's banana pancakes for breakfast? You just have to think about it, that it's a treat. You're having pancakes for breakfast. Okay, so really.
A Shakeology, PB2 chocolate and some berries is like the biggest treat ever, guys. Really, every meal on To Be Mindset should be a treat, even if the treat is the convenience. And I can't wait to see all of I'm posting right now this second so everybody can go in and share their thoughts from tonight's call.
Thoughts or questions?
Guys, let's give Ayala a big round of applause.
What I would really love to see in the group, guys, if you give some thought to what am I leaving out? What story was I relying on and simplifying? And now I realize, what am I leaving out with that? What am I leaving out from telling myself? And like Jude wrote the idea of loving yourself or having thought would be so difficult. I want to tell you guys this, and we'll keep on repeating it. And with this, I'm going to end. This is not meant to be easy. When we talk about tracking and the detailed tracking or what you're leaving out, we are all over 5 years old here. Okay, we're all over 20 years old here. That means the majority of our life, we were spent doing things that now we're trying to change. It's not easy. But as Autumn says, it's definitely worth it. Okay, so put it in the group after Lily posts the picture. Really ask yourself,
I did it.
What am I leaving out? If you had a question on tonight's call, or if you have a question about tracking in general, or if you want help trying to figure out what you're leaving out, reach out to your coach, reach out in the group, and let's really have a mindful March.
And guess what? It's going to be the topic all